It's an exciting time here. Here we go. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, kids, superstars, rock stars, fellow writers. Welcome to the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. This is our first iteration and of what will be three with the Canadian Bro Show. Well, we'll just talk about the first iteration today. The rest is on the ticker below. This is episode 23 with my co-host with the most, Mr. John Leister, and and my favorite Canadian writer, Johnny. You'd be my John Leister would be my second favorite Canadian writer. And sorry, buddy, we got to go with you. We got to go with it. We got to go with the guy that's got an agent, that's won awards, that's got multi books. I mean, you got a lot of books too. We're going to get into that today for sure. I'm very excited about that. But everybody, episode 23 is on our favorite Canadian writers, and we're very blessed to have an old friend of mine, Mr. Jonathan J. Brown. Welcome to the Canadian Bro Show, Jonathan.
Thank you both, man. It's an honor to be here. I'm so fired up to do this. And by the way, right off the bat, the Canadian Bro Show, how did you get that name? I mean, that's such a good... I tell my friends down here, I'm going on the... They're like, that sounds awesome. Just that freaking title. How come no one else had it?
No one else had it. I thought about it. I wanted something that was Canadian. I wanted something that sounded good. It just rolled off the top of my head. And I instantly, as soon as I got it, I went to my Gate company, which is an American company for domains, which I have all my real estate domains. And I secured the Canadian Bro Show.com and .ca. So because I'm going to build a web channel once I get the third iteration. So the second iteration is basketball, all basketball, from the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Rolly. My good old friend Trent Rolly is in St. Paul, Alberta. And I call him, as you can see the ticker, the Barry White of St. Paul's. His voice is velvet butter. For a large white dude, he's got a radio voice, and he also has a radio show on Ben Poulin Radio on Spotify called Two Guys, One Rant. And I think they've got about 30 episodes right now, and it's mostly about small town action in St. Paul's. Only about 6,500 people in St. Paul's, about 90 minutes north of Edmonton, in a lake district. But anyways, Jonathan, I'm just going to I want to give everybody an opportunity. I just want to give you a little blurb from your Amazon. So about the author, Mr. Jonathan Brown, the Canadian-born rock drummer turned author, has just released. Now, this is about a year and a half old, so Jonathan's going to tell us what he's been doing in a year and a half. This is what this interview is about, but this is a little bit older. And he just released, this is the one you released a couple years ago, Chloe, an action-packed thriller with a female protagonist, coming in March of 2023. Drums, Guns, and Money. Book 3 in the Lou Crasher series on Down and Out Books. Yeah, it is, isn't it? And that was in 2021. Brown released Character is What Counts, a novel based on the life of Vince Lombardi. Fascinating. The publisher, Metroris Books, also put out Brown's A Boxing Trainer's Journey in 2019. I'm really looking forward to hear more about that. In November of 2020, Brown shared "Don't Shoot the Drummer." Being a drummer, semi-autobiography in LA.
Yes. That title's for selfish reasons.
And hey, Johnny, he's in his own studio and he's not wearing a bulletproof vest, even though he's in tones. And then Don't Shoot the Drummer. And then the second Lou Crasher book, with Down and Out Books, Don't Shoot, landed on the Barbara Neely Scholarship Award in 2022. That's awesome. The Big Crescendo, a Lou Crasher mystery, and Moose's Law, a Doug Moose McRae story, both dropped in November of 2019. This is going back, John.
Canadian Moose.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no doubt, eh? And Brown recently added an audiobook narration to his bag of tricks, and he's done a couple of those, and he'll tell us about that as well. It's pretty interesting. Also, some children's books. In 2022, he narrated A Baker's Divorce by Frank Scalise and the Ritters, by Lisa Towles. Brown and Brett Halfyard are the proprietors of Side Crow Productions, an audiobook production company. When not writing, Jonathan Brown, as you can tell by looking at him right now, is probably one of the fittest 60-year-old chaps you've ever seen. Always been fit. And when I first met him in 1978, I was like, oh my God, that guy's arms are longer than mine. I'm in trouble. And he's into fitness training. He's into boxing. He's into narrating. He's into writing, of course, and he is a rock star drummer. And but this cat loves hanging with his lovely wife in sunny Torrance, South California. Welcome, Mr. Jonathan J. Brown. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know if I can add anything to that.
Well, you wrote it, so I guess you could update
it.
Yeah, that's true. Now tell all my secrets. Yes, I did write that.
Hey, Jonathan, can you hear all of us pretty well? Everything's good?
Yeah, excellent. I can hear you cats, see you cats. Yeah.
So to start off with, I thought we'd talk about how I met Jonathan, my first experience in meeting Jonathan, and I remember it quite well because his initial school was University Hill, which was pretty exclusive school in the west side of Vancouver. And I grew up in the 60s. I used to live in 10th and Sassamat in West Point Grey before moving down to Kitts, where I met Johnny in 1972. And the first time that I remember is even though University Hill was a smaller school in terms of size and students, they were a West Side school. So in grade 8, we were in the West Side division, and we played regardless of the size of the school back then in the late 70s. We played single A, double.
Yep.
Yeah. And U Hill had probably one of the best talented, like from beginning to end, their team was deep. Even in grade 8, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, all of them, they were tough and they were an offensive machine. And I really loved their coach. And I loved playing at U Hill's hangar gym because it was like something out of a World War II.
Yeah, it did feel that way, didn't it? Yeah,
it really did. And I just used to light that gym up. It didn't need lights when I came in that gym. I used to light that up.
Lack of confidence.
Yes.
So I met Jonathan and we played against each other. We played against each other in grade 8, grade 9, and grade 10. We played in Aberthal. We played at the YMCA. We played at Kitsby. We played everywhere. As kids, we get on our bikes and we just go hoop. Yeah. But Jonathan was a great athlete. He wasn't just doing basketball. He was doing all kinds of things. And we'll talk about that. But, welcome again, Jonathan. I mean, that was the first time I met you. And here we are.
Here we are, man.
All three of us almost 60. Wow. And it's remarkable that everybody looks really healthy and happy. And for the most part, everybody's settled in. What have you, after you went from U Hill to Lord Byng with the Grey Ghosts, which we played against you in there as well.
You smoked us in there, I remember.
Oh, yeah. I remember the very... I was just going to say, I was suspended in grade 12 for the first 5 games of our season. Because I was having issues getting up in the morning because of my mom.
Okay.
And we'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
It was, some things stay with you your whole life, and this is just one of those gifts that keeps on giving. But in the meantime,
so sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to no, this is really interesting because, and this is about you. So once I finish this, we'll get into you. Is the reason why I bring this story up is because it was the first time after not playing in the first 5 games of that season. We were 0-5 when I didn't play, by the way, and Mike Pashinsky, my good friend, who was in grade 11 on our team, he was averaging 36 a game.
He was sick, man.
Without me. And he was boasting. He was like, Paul, I got 36 without you. And I said, Mike, you guys are 0-5. So anyways, my first game back was, of course, at Lord Byng, at the Grey Ghosts, at their famous gym. And all the little, and they introduced us. And the entire audience in the gym stood up, put newspapers in front of their faces, and in unison said, Paul who?
Are you serious? I don't remember that.
Trying to talk about intimidating, but I was so psyched to actually be playing that went out and busted 28. I think I had on you guys in that game. But
Yeah.
anyways, thanks again for being here. And what
Thank you.
did you do? How did you end up turning into where you are now? Like, yeah, what happened after Lord Bing? Like,
I got to go back to the basketball for your fans and for kids coming up.
Cool.
I shit you not. Okay, kids, you were super dedicated. You loved the game, right? And you have to have that level. That's why you went on to play professionally, right?
Yes.
So for some of us, it was an activity, or it was a game that you like, and it was just a sport that you played. So like you said, I was a good athlete. I could not shoot, so I wasn't a great basketball player, but I had a lot of hustle and I had defense. And as Clint Eastwood, as Dirty Harry used to say, man's got to know his limitations. So I decided I'm just going to be a defensive machine so I can actually make the fucking team, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, do you guys swear on here? Sorry about that. Do you guys swear on here?
Show,
well, I mean, it's YouTube. They do tolerate it because we're adults, and
we don't want to push our luck.
No, exactly.
Okay.
Occasionally, like I have a pretty dirty mouth. I swear all the time, but I try to limit it on this because although in my channel I made sure that it's not for kids, so that of course as adults, if one comes out, not a problem. I don't think.
Sure.
I haven't been warned yet.
All you want, Jonathan. Swear like Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, give you a lot of work when you edit. So
we don't edit, John. We go right from the beginning. We've never. I haven't edited one of my 30 plus videos. This is all streaming. We're live streaming, bro.
Okay. I can dig it. So when you're at the level, so because I was I was a good defensive player. What my job tended to be when at U Hill, it was whoever is scoring, let's put Jonathan on that guy. Often they wouldn't usually put me on a center because of the height, but it did happen all the time.
Of course.
Right. And I was the only one that would sort of take myself out, because if I was trying to chase you around for a quarter and a half, and then they might say, Mike's lighting it up. Like, okay, what was he? 6'3", 6'4"?
Back then he was 6'5", and his height he was 6'6", actually.
Okay, so I was 5'11".
Yeah.
So I'm going to do well. So I got the best shape of my life, but I was just freaking exhausted, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But at least, and my team knew, like, don't count on Jonathan for scoring. But we got to put him on whoever's lighting it up. But here's one thing. If you ever find yourself in the middle of a game and you're watching the guy you're covering in awe because he's freaking amazing, then you know that you're just there for fun, but you're playing against a guy who is the real freaking deal. And that was you. I remember when you started incorporating the freaking hook shots, and you were either hand. Yeah. And I used to laugh at the end. I said, I held Bale to a quiet 29 tonight.
Without a 3-point line.
I'm just going to pretend like I know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'll just nod. Yes, I understand.
No, but Johnny's been really good about watching some of our basketball videos as well, and he needs to learn a little bit about it because he's a non-athlete. He's a writer, and he's good at what he does.
I'm an artsy-fartsy nerd.
Well, you can just tell that there are certain guys that that they could go as far as they wanted to take it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was not surprised to hear that you went pro.
Have you two been lifelong friends, or did you recently reconnect?
We always just knew, just reconnected, but we always knew where we were at. I think Facebook years ago we friended.
Connected.
Paul and I reconnected in 2019.
Oh, okay. So it had been a minute for you guys too.
Many years, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Johnny was a different cat, like we all were, I guess, in the past. And Johnny just woke up one day and had just an unbelievably beautiful epiphany, and he found the white light of love.
Okay.
Better late than never.
And although you call it the golden, what do you call it? The golden light of love?
God's heavenly light.
Yeah. Okay.
I always call it the white light of love.
I just got tired of being a couch potato. I always knew that I could do better, and I just learned to accept myself, my limitations, as you said earlier. And that's when I started writing. I always knew that I had a great spirit, And I
Good for you,
discovered,
man.
thank you so much. And I discovered over the last 5 years. And now let me ask you something, Jonathan. Did you always, let's keep this
First
about
of all,
you.
Johnny, before you start, if I can just say thank you for that kind words, Jonathan. That's very nice.
Oh
Going
yeah,
back all those years, such a
oh
long
yeah,
time ago, but it brings back
yeah,
some nice memories, and I do
yeah,
appreciate the kind words.
Did
yeah.
you,
You're
Jonathan,
welcome.
did you always know that you wanted to be a writer? Is it something that you, a bliss that you've been
Aha.
following as far back as you can remember?
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Writing short stories as a kid and all that stuff, but I had zero confidence in
Yeah,
doing it. And if
yeah,
you remember back to publishing back then, the people that wrote books were like your English major or they had a journalism degree,
mm.
and the only
Much
publishers
harder than it is
there was
now.
no self-publishing, right?
Right.
So I thought, wow, I've got high school and the chance of anyone reading what I wrote. So I said, well, no big deal, and I pursued music instead. But
Wow.
what happened, especially going on the road and playing in all those clubs, is I would just capture characters, from the
Right,
sound man to the bouncers to the waitresses and the
right.
waitresses and the waitresses and then and and the fans and stuff. And I just always loved people and
Yeah, me
always
too.
just dug into those conversations. And so I think I was writing and
Yeah,
without knowing I was writing
good
back
for
then.
you.
And
When
then
did you publish your first book, if I may ask?
2013.
And this was online?
No, it was self-published,
Wow.
and I did a book launch in Vancouver at a small bookstore called the Paper Hound. Do you know
Yep,
that one?
I remember
Doesn't
it.
ring a bell.
I remember when you advertised it.
Yeah. So the funny thing is I reached out to a ton of bookstores, and if you guys know, my mother was Rosemary Brown, so famous Canadian politician. So I would put her name all over my. Hey, can Rosemary Brown's son come and do a book launch? And it was crickets, man. Like, no. I said, hey, Vancouver's favorite son is now in LA, but I'm coming back to, no. I said, okay. And then I reached out to the Paper Hound and I just completely wrote the email in like my Lou Crasher character, who's kind of street, he's slick, he's rocker. It was not business at all. And she got back to me right away and she goes, I love that email. Come on up. So
Okay.
2013, I did my first book, and it was called Crescendo. Now,
Right, right.
earlier you said, wasn't it called The Big Crescendo? So here's what happened.
Right.
I went to see a book signing by, hang on a second, Michael Connolly, one of
Oh,
his
okay.
books, right?
Very
So
famous
he,
author.
he writes the Bosch series, right?
Right.
And I asked him a question during the question period, and I said, any advice for a guy? I've just finished my third draft. Any advice? And he said, try to find an agent. It's an agent-driven market. I said, okay. So then everyone gets in line to get their book signed, and I actually was just on the last chapter of reading the book, his book. So I'm like speed reading to get to the end, and then I handed him the book, and I said, oh, I love this book. And so he's got his head down, and he goes, what's the name of your book? And I said, it's Crescendo. And then I didn't realize, but he said, good luck with, or no, I'm looking forward to reading Crescendo. So I thought, I can't not call the book Crescendo. Call the book Crescendo. Then I self-published another book called Drum Roll Please. And then I went to a conference that was for mystery writers and mystery readers only called BoucherCon. And I met a ton of authors way further down the road than me. I highly recommend attending these conferences for whatever genre you write in. The connections are crazy. And I met this woman who is an editor, and she read my first book, and she said, "Well, the good news is it was 100,000 words." And she goes, "You actually have two books here in one." So I would sort of rewrite it, consolidate it, pick and choose, blah blah blah. And then she said, you're breaking some of the rules, some minor rules of mystery and all that stuff. And I'm like, I've been reading mystery since, my teens. But reading and writing is not the same thing, right?
Right.
You kind of think,
Right.
oh, I got this. And then you write and like, not yet. You don't have it. So what then she decided she would help me get an agent. So we went on the hunt for an agent. And I actually paid her to write my cover letter because that thing is so important. And I said, I would rather write 2 books in the time it would take me to write a 3-paragraph short cover letter, because they get thousands. And if they don't like something, boom, it's gone. They're not even going to entertain it. So she said one thing that the big publishers, she goes, let's try to get with one of those publishers in New York, which they called the Big Five at the time. I think there's like 3 of them now because they merge and they gobble each other up. Yeah. And she said, they don't like self-published authors. This was back then. So I think you should sort of take down your first 2 books, take them off Amazon if you can, because they don't like self-published authors. They want she was there. They want to be the one to discover you and then build you up and say, this is his debut novel, is what they want to say.
So it's a credibility situation, right?
You think that they would respect the initiative, though? That's what I would look at. I said you would think that they would respect the initiative.
And this may have been her opinion. I don't know how accurate, but I thought she knows a lot more than me, and she's the expert, so I went with it. And I didn't want to lose that crescendo because of my meeting Michael Connelly, so I call it the big crescendo. So we sort of took the front half of the book, fixed it up. Definitely was a pretty big rewrite, and then that is according to Amazon, my debut novel. That's the first in the series, but it's really the third first. If that makes sense.
Congratulations. And how many do you know your sales? What are your sales like?
I can tell you, I'm not going to swear. I was going to say something all. Sweet, something all.
Paul nipped that in the bud, apparently, so I guess we're good.
Yeah, no, there's no sales to speak of. But okay. So I did not get an agent. I got feedback. I think we hit probably 30, 35 agents. And I heard back from 5 of them, and we had some back and forth, but they all passed. Okay. So this woman at the time, she goes, I can get you with a small publisher, and you don't need an agent. And they're the ones, Down and Out Books, and they have my Lou Crasher series. So the thing with the small publisher is you get an edit, you get a cover, their website, they put it up onto Amazon. They do all that for you, but they don't really do the marketing. That's up to you. And from what I've spoken to authors that are with the New York Times bestsellers, you still have to do your own marketing. It's just small publishers, they have no money for it, and they're honest about it.
Yeah. So your main source of income is music and fitness training?
Well, fitness training, and now audiobooks pay pretty good, but it's tough because AI is in the game now.
Yeah.
And see, to produce, I know, to produce an audiobook, it costs a lot of dough to do an audiobook, because you have to have an audiobook editor, and for the narrator to do it. For example, if a book comes out at 10 listening hours, the top narrators will probably take 20 hours to do it. Like, they're that quick. I would be like around 25 hours, let's say, at my level. So that's a lot of hours that you have to pay someone. Then the editor has to go through it. And then by that time, it costs a lot of dough. So most of us are like you and I, John, we don't have, let's say, $3,000 to put out an audiobook and hope to recoup that money. You got to sell a lot of audiobooks to make that $3,000 and then a profit. So most audiobooks are done by the Big Five, and they have their own in-house narrators.
Okay. Well,
good times.
Can I ask who were some of your favorite authors growing up? Did you read comic books as a kid? Because Paul and I were very avid comic book readers.
When I was really, really young, I did. And then for the longest time, I got it.
Johnny and I were late bloomers, sorry.
So what Jonathan is saying is that he's normal.
I could have put that a little better.
Oh.
That was kind of a veiled insult, I feel, but we're Canadian.
Yeah, but true.
But
so who was your first favorite author? I'm curious.
Well, Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler. Like, I love that stuff.
Did you ever read Robert B. Parker? Do you know him?
I did, not as much as I should have, but I did.
Okay.
But then switching genres, and now this is my nerdy part, I read Robert E. Howard, who wrote Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, nice.
And then later on, the comic books, which were pretty big, so you could say graphic novel-ish comic book. I read those well into my late 20s, so everyone made fun of me for reading Conan, and then Arnold makes a movie, and okay, I'm there opening day,
No, it's okay. It's funny how movies
all,
legitimize this stuff, right? In the minds of some people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. And I was thinking of, actually, yeah, no one's heard this. What you can often do to try, there's few ways to make money as an author. Uh, those books, Robert E. Howard wrote Conan back in the 30s.
Yeah.
And I believe that when he ran out of ideas, he ended up taking his life because he lived for Conan. And when no more, because he felt the muse just funneled these things, and he wrote very quickly. And he was
very prolific.
Very prolific. And he did some sci-fi, but he said his world was Conan. When the Conan stopped speaking to him, I think he took his life or deep depression or something.
Wow.
But those books, they hire other authors and they keep them going. Like John Patterson does that, James Patterson. A lot of authors, it's kind of like ghostwriting, right? So
now, are you Lou Crasher? Is he an idealized version of yourself, which is, I think, something a lot of writers do?
Parts of him for sure.
He's a musician, obviously, right? And a private actor.
Well, I often put him in harm's way where I wouldn't even walk into the room.
Right.
But
my character Lee is much braver than I am. That's for sure. He's got bigger balls.
Exactly.
Put it that way.
But I did look into how to become an author for these Conan books because they're still out there, and I'm sure they've got their little niche nerdy audience like me.
I read the first one.
Yeah, and I don't remember the terms, but you actually have to pay you have to submit your story. So pay to submit your story, then you get pennies if they go with it. You get hardly anything, and then there's another fee. I just thought this is ridiculous. So I came up with my own character who's very Conan-esque, and surprisingly, he's a black guy in that same swashbuckling sword era. So that's a book that I've probably about 30,000 words into right now.
Okay.
Wow.
Congratulations.
So we'll see.
Who plays Lou Crasher in the upcoming Netflix streaming series? Who's your dream actor? My boy Lee is based on Jan Michael Vincent. That's who I have in my mind's eye when I write this character.
In your mind's eye?
Do you remember him?
He's
the Brad Pitt of his day.
Oh, hell yeah. I totally remember him. Yeah. When I started writing Lou, I was thinking about, actually, when Michael B. Jordan came on the scene, I thought, he'd be great.
Creed.
Lou's, he's kind of a wisecracker, so there's comedy there, which I'm sure Michael B. Jordan could do it, but there's a lot of young actors that could do it, youngish actors. So we'll see.
Denzel.
Awesome. Now, how many Lou Crashers are there now?
Well, in reality, 5, but 3 that I'm pushing, so to speak. So the 3 with the down and out books. I'm writing the 4th one right now, which the title's going to be Blood on the Snare Drum.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
Are they set in present day?
Present day Los Angeles. Yeah, he's a rock drummer turned unlicensed private investigator. Okay. So it usually starts something with a band, a club, the music, and either, then there's a body. And Lou always has one foot in rock and roll and the other foot in being a PI. And as the books go, he's going to move more and more into the PI.
I think that's a very unique concept that you have. I mean, I've not heard that before. I think what you have is really special and really has a lot of potential for real. I mean, that's something that I'd want to see. I'd absolutely want to watch that as a Netflix series or movie, 100%.
Thank you. So here's what I ran into when I was on the agent hunt and all that stuff. Is they're like, nobody's into PI anymore. Under the mystery, they're like, nobody likes PI. I'm like, if you think about it, if you think about your favorite Western, the sheriff is pretty much a PI. I mean, it's PI is that lone person that tries to figure something out, basically. But they're like, oh, no one wants PI. So there's that. And so some people were like, they would say, I can't relate to this. This is too different. But if I wrote mystery like everyone else writes, they're like, oh, we've already got that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of BS to it.
You just have to connect with that one person how many doors got slammed in George Lucas's face when he was trying to sell Star Wars? Everybody told him, oh,
J.K. Rowling too.
Yeah, every successful person has had doors.
Sure.
Yeah. They go, you're crazy, your idea. You have to connect with that one. There's somebody out there. I mean, the people who think that Star Wars is total garbage. and that's fine. But there are enough people who like it that George Lucas is a millionaire. That's how that works. You just have to keep knocking on doors
many times
and
over.
reaching out. And finally, Alan Ladd Jr., he was the executive who greenlit Star Wars and became the biggest thing ever.
Right.
And Johnny, well, we've got Jonathan here. Tell him a little bit about your
Sure.
about you.
Well, if you're gonna twist my arm, Paul, I guess I can talk about myself a little bit. Well, I've been a security guard for most of my adult life. I still do that job. My dad used to run a private detective agency / security agency called Pinkerton's back in the day, and he hired me. And I remember
with the Pinkertons.
He managed Pinkerton's, in Vancouver.
That's old school, eh?
There were Pinkerton security guards everywhere with the tunic and all the buttons and very quasi sort of paramilitary. And I just took the job thinking, well, I'll work for a couple of years doing this job and I'll figure something out. I never really did. And then in 2019, my life changed. And as Paul alluded to earlier, I took a leap of faith. I've always been an agnostic. And once I started to believe in God, I started to believe in myself. And that's when I became a self-published author. Now, I started with Amazon initially, but I had some hiccups with them. And so I found another website. And this is a good life lesson, right? Plan A doesn't work. You don't give up. You go to plan B, you go to plan C, you ask for help. And so have you heard of a website called Draft2 Digital? Have you heard of that? Oh, good. So that's what I use to publish my book. And it's anybody out there who wants to be a self-published author. It's super easy. It's free. And what they do is they springboard your books to different websites.
Are they ebooks only or both?
They're ebooks. Yeah, that's something.
That's what I thought.
That is an option. But I'm still working full time, and I do need to sleep, and there are only so many hours in the day. And I have a Facebook page called Johnny's Way, over 800 members, I think now. And I post videos of myself. Yeah, thank you. And I post videos of myself every day, reading. Whatever it is that I've written that day, I'll make a video of myself and I'll put it out there, and I share it with various writers groups around the world. Yeah.
Hey.
Johnny probably posts 20 to 30 times a day. He's just completely out of control.
A little compulsive.
And some of our old friends are like, dude, that's a little overkill. And I'm like, when you're hustling and when you're dreaming big, you just got to keep dreaming big and don't give up.
Yes, so my hero Lee, I think, has some similarities to your hero Lou Crasher. He's a wisecracker. He's a ladies' man. He's an idealized version of myself, and he's fearless, and he's very sensitive. One of my favorite scenes that I ever wrote, if I can talk about this a little bit, I wrote a chapter where a cop was giving Lee shit for he accidentally disrupted a crime scene. And the cop's like, you private eyes, you're amateurs and you don't know what you're doing. And Lee's like, excuse me, I have to go take a leak. So he goes in the restroom and he starts crying. Because and it's like, I want to see this in a movie because I've never seen that before. I mean, you've never seen a character like this who's tough, right? He projects outward toughnesses, but he has this vulnerability inside that comes out at inopportune moments. He's also an asthmatic.
That's so funny.
And I've written a couple of chapters where he's had an asthma attack in the middle of a pivotal moment in my stories. So you know what? I think
what's his name, Johnny?
Lee Hacklin. Now, originally he was Lee Hackman, because one of my favorite movies from the 1970s is Night Moves, which is probably one of the best movies ever made about a private eye. Gene Hackman. But I thought Hackman was a little bit on the nose. And I think Hackman, because I did not want his name to have a particular ethnicity. I wanted to be sort of kind of androgynous. That anybody could be Lee. Lee could be white. He could be black. I mean, in my eye, he's Jan Michael Vincent, but I'm open-minded to whoever wants to play the character if that ever happens.
Johnny's malleable.
Yeah, very malleable. And that's the point. I mean, if Netflix says to me, Lee can't be a smoker, that's an issue for me, because that's kind of the whole point of my stories. They're set mostly in the 1970s, and everybody smoked in the 1970s. So I wanted to be truthful, and he's a drinker, and he is who he is, and so that's my boy Lee. And this is what I absolutely want to do with my life. I have in my mind's eye, as you do for yourself, that it's my creativity, so whatever it's worth, that is my main source.
And if I may say, I've read quite a bit of Johnny's stuff. I've been supporting him for many years, and he was the first person I thought of when I wanted to do all things Canadian as sort of, sort of pop culture vibe, and we have a lot of common things that we grew up, and then Johnny would send me little blurbs, and usually just one page, and it just works. It flows. It's funny. I told him to be a little dirtier, a little bit more violent, and I think he's adding a little bit here and there because
I wrote a chapter where Lee's mom decapitates a guy with a machete. I mean, this
and as you wrote it, did you say this one's for Paul?
I know, but I have dedicated a couple of books to Paul. I don't know if you know that.
I was the character that got decapitated.
I've deliberately not named any of my characters Paul because I go, oh shit, I can't call this guy Paul because he's gonna automatically assume, especially if he's like a drug dealer or something, because I'm gonna automatically assume that it's based on him when it's not.
Right,
so
right.
Hard hitting, Johnny.
So
I mean, I think what we're doing is a wish fulfillment. We're writing stories where good is rewarded and evil is punished.
Mm-hmm.
And I just discovered over the last 5 years that, like, I have my notebook here in front of me. Every time I open my notebook, the words just spill out of me. It's like I'm just regurgitating. If this is what it's
prolific.
I can't fix a car. I can't shingle a roof. There's a million billion things that I can't do, but I can do this, and it's enough. This is my thing. I was not meant to be a surgeon. I was not meant to be a professional baseball player.
Don't break the desk, Johnny. Don't break the desk. It's public property.
That's public property.
And if it never makes me any money, that's fine. I don't care. Yeah. What matters is that we're doing it. That it's the doing. Did you ever see that movie DOA with Dennis Quaid? Do you remember that movie?
I do. I don't remember, but I saw it. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He has this monologue, which is, to put it succinctly, says, it's not about money. It's not about fame. Those things are nice. What matters is the work, the effort. When I published that first book, it was the first time in my life where I actually started something and crossed the finish line. It was, it was a very unusual feeling for me. And so I've become addicted to that feeling ever since.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
And I don't have to will myself to do it. It's as natural to me as eating, sleeping, and breathing.
Which is why you need an agent. You need to get your stuff out there because you're talking about Jonathan's stuff on Netflix. Yours, from what I've read, would be an excellent series. You know what I mean?
Question for you, John. You said your books are short. Are they novella length, or how many
words?
Yeah,
they are. The first few books I wrote were about 100 to 200 pages. They're getting shorter and shorter. Oscar Wilde said brevity is the soul of wit. I find it because that's kind of like one of the things I liked about Robert B. Parker. He didn't spend 3 pages describing what someone was wearing. It was a rich man's house. Like, I like that. When I'm reading a book, I like that. Just
you like to get to it. You like
to
get to it.
I don't like a lot of adjectives and flowery descriptions, and so they're getting shorter. I wrote one called Armageddon and Boogie. And I was thinking that this is going to be like a Tom Clancy-esque thriller. I was going to send Lee to Washington, and President Reagan was going to be a character, and then it was going to have like foreshadowing to 9/11. And then I got to like page 80, and all the bad guys are dead. And I was like, this is done. On to the next one. And I think that a lot of people, they spend years and years trying to perfect that one novel.
Some people do, yeah.
Part of art is imperfection. All my stories have so I need an editor. Not only do I need an agent, I need an editor, because I know all my stories have typographical errors, have grammatical errors.
Oh, you don't.
That's part of the beauty of art. Your favorite movie, all our favorite movies have bloopers. They all have continuity issues, but it doesn't matter, because what matters is how we feel as we're watching them, or how we're reading them.
Johnny, I got both Johnnies. I got continuity issues myself.
Is that incontinence issues? No, that's me.
Did I say that?
Real small splatter.
I didn't mean that.
That's hilarious. So what, you edit your own stuff?
Yeah. Oh, this is a one-man enterprise.
Yeah, I would go. So far, you could even go if budget is something. There's something. What is it called? Fiverr, and there's Upwork. There's certain sites that you can go find editors that are good, and then even if it's just for not for your story content, but just for their grammar, because that will take, if it's messy, that'll take readers out, and agents will be they won't put up with that.
I know there's a certain point where there's a tipping point. So do you have an editor then? Do you have someone who gets stuff?
I don't try. Hey, I graduated. The last time I did English was 1984. So I went to music school later. So I need an editor.
That's awesome. Definitely. Now, is AI something that both of you could utilize in your writing in terms of having an AI editor?
Yeah, there are now. I don't use them, but there's some programs that while you write, as you're writing, the AI is kind of making suggestions with your sentence structure and all that shit. I was so horrible when I tried one of the early versions that it just got in the way of the writing, because it's kind of like when the teacher hands you your test back and it's all red marker. So I'm like, hey, you might want to do this. I'm like, you know what, AI, take a seat. I'll write my entire book, and then I'll get a human editor to let me know. So
Can I ask you, Jonathan, about your writing process? Do you plot everything out in advance, or is it stream of consciousness? Or is it a little
Aha!
bit of both?
Good question, Johnny.
I started just they would call them pantsers, like writing by the seat of your
Oh,
pants.
gotcha. Yeah, that's how I
So
Pantsers.
write.
pantsers just write
Yeah,
and plotters
put it
outline,
out.
right?
Yeah.
So when I worked with that woman, she said, um, I would turn in some pages or chapters, and then she would say, "You don't need this, you don't need that." So she could tell I was trying to figure it out as I was writing. And she said, "Have you ever considered outlining?" And I said, "Well, that reminds me of like high school outlining." I said, "Ah." And she goes, "Yeah," because she's around our age. So she said, "I know this is not the 1970s outlining your paper." I guess I was triggered or something. And so I said, "Okay, can you show me how to do it?" And it's just plot points and chapters and sections and stuff. But she made me do it very detailed. So it was probably 15 pages where I was thinking, isn't this book? This is kind of long for an outline. Shouldn't it just be one page?
Yeah.
She's like,
To
not
me,
for
part
an
of
80,000 words novel. And here's where the payoff came in.
Hmm.
So I thought, okay, so I outlined, I think, my next 2 books like that. Now I have a very loose outline, and then I just go for it. You
Yeah,
know what
that's
I
how I
mean?
write. Because to
And
me,
I
part
write
of the joy of writing is discovery. As you're writing, you're
yeah,
discovering things along the
mm-hmm,
way. I feel like if I
yep,
planned everything in advance, that
mm-hmm.
there's something gets lost and would get lost in the translation there. And I
Yeah,
also
and
feel
that's
like
why there's no
it's like
right way to do it.
and it's like ready set. I don't want to be in ready set. I want to be in
Yeah,
go.
that's why you got to find out which one works for you. And I like sort of a blend of the two. But where it really paid off is you mentioned those two, the boxing trainer's journey book and the Vince Lombardi book. So here, can I just tell you how that whole stuff
Please,
came out?
please, yeah.
Okay.
Well, before you do that,
Yeah.
just quickly
Yeah.
tell so Johnny knows as well and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
How many books have you written so far? And most of them are this fictional character, but you've
Yeah.
also done nonfiction and you've also
Yeah.
done children's books. If
Oh
Yes.
wow.
am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've done 2 audio children's books that I narrated. So it
Cool.
was fun to almost pretend to be like Mel Blanc of Bugs Bunny, right? To do.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
but
so you
with
do different voices for the characters?
I did the yeah, yeah,
Oh
I did.
wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The the
Will you be
two
doing more because of that experience?
oh yeah. Oh,
Excellent.
for
Excellent.
sure, for sure. It's fun,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, and it's just something to step away from the mystery and the other stuff
Yeah.
for
Yeah, absolutely.
and that also keeps you. I mean, I can tell the three of us are young at heart. It keeps you a kid, and you got to be
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Man,
100%.
I have not grown up and I'm turning 60 in a couple of weeks. My wife just says, "Please grow up," and I'm like,
No,
"Dude, that's about as good as you're gonna get." Okay.
There you go.
this is it.
We're not
Yeah.
getting
So
older, we're evolving.
right, right. So I was playing in a rock band with this guitar player, and his day job was um, managing an Italian newspaper, and because he's an Italian guy from Sardinia, and he said to me, "My boss, he's a very wealthy guy, older guy in his 80s, and he wants to get into publishing, and what he wants to do is tell stories about famous Italians and Italian Americans, and he's going to hire writers and he's going to pay them." I said, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." And he goes, "So I signed you up." I said, "Don't sign me up. I don't do that kind of shit. Uh, I write mystery and stuff." And he goes, "No, no, he's paying the authors $20,000." And I said, "No, my specialty is exactly Italian."
Funny how that works.
Hey, was that
Everybody's
Italian news?
motivated.
Was that Italian newspaper? Was that Marco Polo, the one that they produce here and they publish in Vancouver?
No, they don't publish. No, they
There's
publish
the only Italian
published out
newspaper in
here.
Vancouver is called Marco Polo. I was just curious.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what the name of it is. So I spoke to the old man or whatever, and he said, "Here's how it works. Uh, I will. You send me an outline of the story, like because he had a list of Italians, right, and authors could go pick the books. And I saw um, Angelo Dundee, who was Muhammad Ali's boxing trainer. I said, "Oh, I can get into that one." And he said, "Okay, so you give me an outline, and if I dig it, I give you $10,000. You write the book, and then you get the other 10." And he goes, "But it's a handshake deal. I don't do contracts." So I would never do this, except my buddy vouched for him. He goes, no, he always pays. And I said, this is a big thing that I know we're friends, but if you vouch for him and I don't get paid, I'm coming for you, much as I love you. I was kidding. So I got the 10 grand and I was terrified that what have I saw? I've never written a book like this.
Just started ticking.
Totally. It was like a thriller. Now the clock is ticking. I got to write this book. And he said I had a year. So right off the bat, I said, I'm doing this thing in 8 months because I bet it's going to be 4 months of corrections from their editor. I had no confidence going in, and I was so nervous about the money. And my wife, Sonia, said, calm down. You're going to be great. You already know how to write. Just do what you do. I said, but if I want to put this in a separate account, but how long did that last? He's just let me get this one thing. And then, okay, halfway through the book, half the money's gone, or the money's gone. So now there's more pressure. And wrote the book, gave it to their editor, and she said, my husband has always liked boxing. I don't really like boxing until I read your book. And now we go on YouTube and we're watching all of those old Ali, Frazier, Foreman. She goes, every weekend we have dinner, we drink wine, and we watch those old fights because of your book. And I was like, dang.
That's a feather in your cap.
Yeah. And then real quick, the second book, I was kept in touch with his name's Robert Barbera. And we're just kind of shooting the breeze. And he said, I sure wish that Vince Lombardi book had worked out. And I said, what happened to Vince Lombardi? And he said, well, gave the author the money. And he told us we couldn't edit it. I said, but you're the publisher. And he said, that's what we said. And then so he walked away with his half the money and his book. So I said, I played football. I'll do that. I'll do it for half price. And he goes, sold. And I said, did I say half price? So I did that one. Character is what counts. And speaking of love that you talk about, I didn't want to just write a book about football. We all know he's got some expressions, but he would yell at the guys and all that stuff. I thought I got to go deeper to find the story. And the inside story about Vince is he was a very loving guy. He used to loan money to the black players that didn't have any money and never wouldn't let them pay him back. He would find them housing. Because you think in the 60s and 70s, football players didn't make anything. I mean, they might have made $100 a game and they got to live off that and have another job in the off season.
Right.
He was a member, they gave him a free membership at a country club. And he had these two caddies, young guys that were, they were native, they were indigenous. And every summer they got laid off. So the white college kids, the kids of the wealthy club members would come because they needed a summer job. And Lombardi said, these guys need the work. So if you lay them off, I'm pulling my membership and I'm telling everyone in the Packers organization not to frequent your club. So he saved their jobs. So he kept doing things like this. And he stressed the importance of strong character. He goes, whether we win a Super Bowl, we're going to win as many as we can. But what I'm trying to build here on the field is for you to take after you retire and take into life. If you end up owning a car dealership, I want you to treat your customers decently and fairly. And you learned it here. And I just was reading about the guy and I thought, I love the guy. So I called it Character is What Counts, because that's really what he was trying to instill.
Nice.
And this is one of your two nonfiction books that you've written. And Johnny, do you know Vince Lombardi? Do you know what sport he's talking about?
He's football.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yes, I got it right. That was a bit of a guess, but I'm fairly confident that was the right answer.
Yeah.
I feel
an Italian American, and
great guy.
My manhood has been confirmed. Finally,
great coach, great legacy, stand-up guy. You can only dream as an athlete. You can only dream to have a coach like that.
Mm-hmm. And it did tell me that. Sorry.
When you told your friends and family that you wanted to be a writer, did any of them try to sway you? Did you have any opposition?
Okay, I would get a lot of this. But you're a drummer.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So now I'm gonna write books,
Wow. It's
or
funny
I
how
get,
people try to put you
or
in a
be like,
box,
oh,
right?
oh, really? That sounds cool. And they're thinking this will last 3 months, and then he'll be back playing drums.
Yeah.
No, but I
And
mean, people don't realize how difficult it is to be a drummer. I mean, there's a
yeah.
big joke in Canada about Nickelback, and they've been through what 27 drummers or something,
Yeah.
and one of them I actually know, and
Okay.
they liked him, but he
Mhm.
voluntarily said, "F you, you
Oh.
guys are assholes," and
Oh.
especially one of them. And I won't say the
Okay.
name,
Yeah.
but they loved him because it was so
Mhm.
hard to find a good drummer.
Oh, they should have called me,
I
because
know.
I know that everyone like craps on Nickelback, and I kind of find that funny, not fair and funny, and who cares?
They've got some good music. Come on.
They do. And so I had an experience with those guys. Richards on Richards. Do you remember that club?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah. So I was playing there with this West African band. Nickelback was on the same. It was a weird bill, like 6 bands or whatever. And we're all backstage. And I'm talking to, I think, who you're talking about, that one member. And he was super cool with everybody.
That's what I've heard.
He kept going out to the bar and bringing all the band members drinks. It was like
Right.
Nice.
like the waiter. He was fun,
My kind of
funny.
guy.
Yeah, yeah. And then he was telling me, or the band members were telling me, that they were joking that they didn't want to get signed because at the time there was almost a bidding war of record labels that wanted them. So he said, we were in New York last night having steak and cigars and whiskey, and then we flew out here this morning for this, and these other guys are taking us out, like, we're loving this part of it, you know. So they were laughing about that, and I think they got signed right after that show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm 2 years later, I'm working at a drum shop in LA, and this guy walks in and we start talking, and he turns out he shot a bunch of music videos for Nickelback. And I said, oh, I know those guys, they're super cool, and the singer's a super nice guy. And he goes, yeah, people say that he was a nice guy. I'm like, what happened? And I guess on the set of this video, he had a tantrum and went off on everybody, and it just was uncool. And the drummer at that time walked up to the videographer and apologized. And the videographer said, I heard he was cool. What is this, just like a one-off? Or he said, here's what it is. He was super cool in the beginning. We were all cool. We were like brothers. But what I think is he knows that this fame is not going to last because of the type of band we are and the era, like 90s or whatever. And it scares the crap out of him. And so that's kind of turned, his fear has made him push it out in anger. And I said, well, I've seen that a million times in all walks of life, right?
Right.
Instead of just being, like you said, you find the light, you find that thing to keep you grounded.
Yeah.
And if you know it's not going to last, you keep hustling and bust your ass, but then enjoy it while it does last, instead of going at people, because that's what they're going to remember about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You know?
But
fear brings out the worst in people.
And Norman, they're so successful, though, you know, and Canadian, of course, and they've got some great music. But a nice segue there from writing to drumming. Hey,
right?
You notice that? That's just
see what I did there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you in a band right now, Jonathan?
No. I sort of had a great run, like your pro basketball year.
Yeah.
I did it and loved it. I still have one student, because after going on the road, which was mostly going across, I think I went across Canada 5 or 6 times with different bands, and a little bit in the States. And I just thought, okay, now I got to get to Europe. I want to see the world with music. And I have a laundry list of bands that we're going, it's canceled. As we're going, it fell 3. The guitar player's sleeping with the keyboard player, and they quit. Like, they can sleep together, but let's just go on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
They can have their own room. Just don't do it in the van, you know? So while that was happening, I was gathering stories and characters. But what was the point of the drumming? You asked me.
Oh, just tell you, I was wondering if you're currently in a band, or do your own band, or
no. I mean, I still play every day just for fun, and because that one, I wouldn't say I burned out, but the live music scene is so small in LA now because it's shrinking. It's those clubs couldn't make money. The DJs came in, like, you know.
Is the Viper Bar still open?
Viper Room, I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I played there with that Italian guitar player. We murdered that show. We just
Really?
murdered that show.
That's
It was
awesome.
so much fun. It was so much fun.
I hear it's a great room.
It is, and it was kind of progressive rock, it's very athletic for drummers of a certain age. And I remember being like 5 songs deep and thinking, I gotta pace myself here because I'm not 21 anymore.
Working up a sweat.
Oh yeah, that's a workout.
But as soon as I met my wife or girlfriend at the time, I thought, I don't want to go on the road anymore. I know that sounds
Tell us about that, Jonathan. That's a nice segue right there. Tell us about your lovely wife. I've seen a photo of you two together. You look incredibly happy. You look like you guys are just made for each other.
We're very happy, and as I say to her all the time, I married the hot one, and it's true. We met in Vancouver at a wedding, of all places.
He's just being modest, Johnny. The ladies love Jay Brown.
Well, obviously, I mean, that's self-evident.
This is the best podcast ever.
Yeah.
Yay, we're doing something right.
Canadian Bro Show, bro.
It only took 30 plus episodes, but here we are.
Here we are.
We've arrived.
So I was already I had come back to Los Angeles. This was like 1999, I think. Flew up for a wedding, a U-Hill guy. So I knew the groom, and my wife knew the bride. And I saw her. They got married. They did their ceremony at in a movie theater. I think I can't remember.
This is not Stu Shillman, is it?
No, but it's Colin White, one of his best buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember all those guys. I actually had a really nice conversation with Stu just recently. He's back east, and a real estate conversation, my real estate thing. But
yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So we met at the wedding. I remember seeing her across the room in this red dress, and I'm standing with a buddy from Bing, and we're like, oh, what guys say. And we're talking in a way we both know that she's way out of both of our leagues, even if we combined it, right? And then she came over and introduced herself, and she extended her hand. I shook her hand, and this is really corny. You can edit this out, even though it's live. I really felt electricity all the way up the arm, the whole body. And right then I said, she's the one, but I don't have a hope in hell of convincing her that I'm the one.
Right.
So I ended up getting kind of loaded at the wedding and just being a jackass. Like I quit before I started.
That never happened to me.
I was just gonna say, Johnny, that kind of sounds like you.
No.
Something in the name John.
Just hammered. John's hammered into oblivion. He barely has his equilibrium. He's bouncing off the walls.
My evil twin brother.
Johnny's one of the best drunks I've ever seen. It's you think he's going to tip over, but he just manages to always stay up.
Oh, balance. Serious balance.
When I was a younger man, I had my obnoxious moments. I'll be the first.
Well, you know why he has balance for a non-athlete, Jonathan? Is his feet are like biverines. They're just they're
11 wide.
11 wide.
But they look 14 wide.
There you go.
There you go.
Yes. So, we pursued each other and all that stuff. But right then I thought, if this works out, I'm not going to take any gigs on the road because I just want to spend time with her.
And how many years ago was that now?
We just celebrated 21.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
What took you from Vancouver to Los Angeles?
I came down here for music school.
Oh.
A summer program. And then I was lucky
school?
Sorry, the Musicians Institute of Technology in Hollywood.
Oh, okay, excellent.
When I came down in '94, I was 27 years old. So for that 10 years after high school, I didn't know what to do. So you talk about security. I was a bouncer, rock drummer, just partying too much, just lost. Basically.
Was Andrew with you at that time?
Andrew. Yeah, he came down and he went.
Was it Andrew Barry or Andrew Macbeth at this point?
He was Macbeth at that time.
Of course. The actor. Yeah. Yes.
Because I remember when he told us, we all stuck with Barry for the longest time. Like, no, it's up to us what we call you, pal.
Oh, I've called him a lot of things over the years.
Poor guy.
Yeah. yeah, so came down to music school, and then just for the summer program, and then ended up going back to Vancouver and auditioning to get into Humber College in Toronto.
Nice. Yeah.
And I did the
Junior college.
audition, and they said, "Yeah, man, you're in." And I was so excited.
Humber's
So
got
then
a
I
good
went up to
basketball program, hey?
do they?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dug the campus and all that stuff, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna go home. I went to the Dawson City in the Yukon to work for the summer or 5 months.
What a colorful place that is, eh?
Exactly, and which was a
More
blast.
more characters.
Oh, a ton of them, and they have been in the pages of my books. So then I was up there for 5 months, made a bunch of money. So I thought, okay, I got a stack of money. I can go out to Toronto, and this is going to be great. And then at the time, then I got a letter. I remember my mom called me. She said, "Got a letter from Humber today saying that due to budget restraints in the province of Ontario, they're catering to Ontario students first, and you got bumped." And I was like, "You are effing kidding me,
man!"
I was so excited, and I told all my friends, "I'm going to Humber, man. This is a great program," and so I was like, I get back to Vancouver. Now what do I do? And then found that I could go back to LA, and my parents said, "Well, we put some money aside so you can go to the year program, or it's like 18 months." I said, "Really?" And then I got a student loan for housing and all that stuff, and went to LA and just fell in love with Los Angeles.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we're
Johnny, he's a dual national, like myself. I'm British and Canadian.
Okay.
Jonathan has American and Canadian citizenship as well.
Great.
He's got the best of both worlds.
There you go.
Yeah. So then did that. So I was there. I stayed a little longer past. I didn't have the citizenship right away, so I stayed past my student visa just by a little bit. got
enough.
A lawyer.
Just
enough. Got a lawyer, and then she said, "While you're working on this, you should really get out of the country because you are there illegally." So I said, "Okay." Went back to Canada, and that's when I did some touring, and then came back down in the year 2000, and then just before that, I met my wife to be, and I was like, I don't want to go back to Vancouver. I love LA. I was playing in all these bands and all this stuff. And then, so we were together about 10 months, and then long distance relationship. And then we felt the pressure, like who's going to move where. And we broke up.
Oh, no.
And then we were apart for 8 or 9 months. And then we just said, this is ridiculous. Let's figure this out. And she said, I'm coming to you. And and that's it.
That's love.
Great love story.
Yeah. So if we ever, with the intent of someday we'll go back, but now since I've left, it costs $28 million to live in Vancouver. Thanks a lot, guys. So we can't come back.
Blame Paul for that. That's your fault, Paul.
Just blame it on all the greedy realtors out there.
It's all your fault, Paul.
Yeah.
It's all our fault. It's just ridiculous. It's expensive. Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's just, but that's changing. The prices have dropped about 15%, if that means anything. But when they're hyperinflated to 280%, what's 15%?
Right there, what's 15%?
I want to ask Jonathan about his career as a personal trainer. How did that begin?
I needed to supplement the since I was not going to go on the road anymore. I thought, let me just teach for a little while. Which before that, I said I will never teach. I'm in a band. That's those that can do, those that can't teach is a dumb expression. But I thought, I'll teach for like 10 minutes. And within 5 minutes of teaching, I loved it.
Nice.
And I worked out of oh man, most of my students were they have middle school down here, which is like grade 7 to 9, and high school is 9 or something like 7.
Same in Kelowna, they have middle school here. It's weird.
Yeah. So I had a lot of middle school and high school students. And I worked out of a store, and I had like 60 students a week just for one-on-one private lessons, and I just loved it. So to supplement the day job, that's when I got into personal training.
Nice.
And did you go to school for that? Did you get a certificate?
I got an online. I got one of those weekend ones first.
Nice.
And then I went and got like the NASM one, which was, I don't know how many, 6 weeks and a lot of money. Great. And then as it turned out, because I thought, if I have this, then I can go work in a gym. And when I started looking at all the gyms, man, they put so much pressure on you to bring them business. I'm like, dude, you got the brick and mortar, you have the sign, you do the marketing. No.
Yeah.
And then and then the trainers, I guess they get pretty competitive for the scraps. I'm like, it's just a horrible business model. Why are you doing it that way? So I've always either taken my gear to people's houses, or they come. We converted the garage, and I use them at the backyard. And
so people come to you and you train them.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
And how many train them in
you teach them weightlifting, stretching?
Yeah, that was my question too. I was like, what are you training these people?
Yeah, it's weightlifting for sure.
Yeah,
like resistance, and then body weight stuff like your calisthenics and stuff. And then for cardio, I'll hold the focus pads for kickboxing, because I ended up when I was 38, 40, whatever, getting into Hapkido, which is a Korean karate.
I was going to ask you about martial arts.
My wife and I did that together.
Nice.
And
Billy Jack's martial art was Hapkido. Remember those movies, Billy Jack with Tom Laughlin?
Oh, yes.
Totally.
Those movies are so awesome. They're so good. They're just so balls to the wall nuts.
They're so ridiculous. I love those movies.
They're so good.
He's like, I'm going to kick Billy Jack. I'm going to kick you in the side of the head, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it.
Whack! I'm going to kick you redneck sheriffs to death with my bare feet. That's what he did.
Those are good, eh? That just brought back a stream of memories right there.
They're awesome.
Yeah. So I can, and then I used that to teach some self-defense and kickboxing. And what I found, women love hitting and striking. And my theory is that when we came up as guys, we wrestled and we fight with each other all the time.
You look like my ex-boyfriend.
And that wasn't really encouraged. Girls were supposed to be ladylike or act like girls. So you give them some boxing gloves and they just like, bam, like, this is fun, And they're very violent. Women are very violent.
Not a lot of control.
But what I like is I want them to have a skill so they can protect themselves.
Right.
That's what I want. Like they might come and say, I want to lose 5 pounds. I got a wedding coming up. I said, okay, but we're going to do this. I'm going to teach you something. So if something goes wrong at the wedding, you can tune up that guy that's getting a little handsy.
2 for 1.
Tell him I sent you.
Jonathan, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's your game plan?
Ooh.
Do you have a vision?
Yes. I see definitely narrating as much as I write. And one of these books to be the one where someone says, where have you been? I'm like, look at my Amazon page that Paul read out loud. That's where I've been.
Yeah, exactly.
And also somewhere we're in a better financial situation so my wife can retire, because she works her tail off. I would love for her to not have to work. See, because my thing is art, and I freaking love it. I will narrate until I sound exactly like Morgan Freeman, and I will, and I'll just keep writing, because that stuff doesn't hurt the body,
No.
And the training, and I'm going to start, coaching, like being a life coach and stuff like that, because the positive stuff, I guess which we can get to, is the cancer. What's come out of that is really being helpful with other people that are going through it.
Well, let's since you brought it up, let's. Are you comfortable with sharing?
100%. Yeah. So in
how long has this been going on?
2022, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is in one of the leukemia cancers. So it's all blood and bone.
One of them? How many leukemia cancers are there?
Well, when I got it, 4, so there might be like 11 by now.
God, man.
Science is always making these discoveries.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, it actually is. So I started my treatment, chemo, in March of 2022. Did that got into remission in 5 months, and then took some time before I was going to do a stem cell transplant. And then I did the stem cell transplant. So that was done by the end of September. And so I was free and clear until I just found out about 2 weeks ago that the cancer is back. So I had a nice 2-year run. Cancer's back, but I'm ready for it, because, like the second time you're going to play that basketball team, you know what everyone can do. and what their moves are, Paul.
And I got so many moves, you'd never know all my moves.
Yeah, and I know that I can score 34 on them, right? Yeah, so
well, you can try.
Yeah, so the I mean, I had so much love and support from family and friends and people I'd forgotten I'd been friends with on through social. And my wife was an absolute stud through the whole thing because she kept working full time. And at my rock bottom, which was they give you a really heavyweight chemo before you do the stem cells. So I usually walk around at 200, 205. I got down to 165 pounds.
Oh, gosh.
And was just so tired all the time.
Were you in a lot of pain? Were you in a lot of physical
No,
pain?
I was so lucky because they kept asking me that over and over and over. Nurse practitioners, oncologists, are you sure you don't feel anything or nausea? I didn't have that. I just mostly had fatigue. Um, some some days I'd wake up. Remember, our parents used to say, "Oh, these aching bones." Yeah. Well, I actually had aching cancerous bones. So like, oh, that's what it feels like. So the mornings would be tough. I made myself. I kind of approached it like an athlete. So I exercised every single day, and sometimes it was 10 minutes of yoga or just 15 minutes of the stretch bands, followed by sometimes a 3-hour nap. Like I would just tire myself out. And they said, don't do anything strenuous. And I said, you can't. I've been doing sports too long, and ego, competitive, and I just think do as much as you can because I know the benefits of exercise and moving, not just physically but mentally.
Yeah, it's good for your mind, right? It takes your mind.
Oh, hell yeah!
We call it muscle memory, and it is for real.
Totally
it
for
is
real.
100% for real. Yeah. I just started refereeing up in Kelowna as a little side gig hustle, and getting paid and hanging around these kids, and my knees swelled up, and I've been icing them, and it took about 17 games of refereeing where the knees, the swelling came down, came back to normal, and my body is now saying, let's not stop. Keep it going.
Love it.
Keep moving forward. Rocky Balboa.
It's incredible. The body is and the mind is absolutely so powerful and so strong. And everything that Jonathan's saying is going to contribute to him beating 100%. The big C, beating the crap out of that.
These medical treatments, do they cost you an arm and a leg? I mean, do you have insurance to pay for all this stuff?
It's very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question being the States, because I've heard horror stories.
Yeah, we all have.
It's very expensive, and it should not be a for-profit system. It should not be a for-profit system.
Yeah, say that to all the corporations that are making trillions.
Exactly. However, I'm with Kaiser Permanente, and I sing their prayers. Shout out to Kaiser, and I did my stem cells at City of Hope, and shout out to them too. Like, awesome. Just rock stars. I kind of had in my head that, okay, when I go for my treatments, I'm going to be around everyone who's just bummed out. It's just going to be so dreary and miserable. And the opposite is true. Like, the staff are just happy, and they're laughing, and they're having fun, and they all know their shit.
Yeah.
And so that was, because I know, like, to stay positive, you got to be around the positive, right?
100%.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, because my wife had breast cancer, about 7-8 years ago, and she lost her entire breast, most of it, 98%. And this amazing series of doctors at UBC, the cancer clinic out of University of British Columbia, they're unbelievable.
They are.
And I was just blown away by, and she had a plastic surgeon that recreated an entirely new breast. Wow. And I haven't seen my wife in 6 months. She's in Vancouver. I've been in Kelowna, but I will be seeing her. Hopefully, I'm flying out tomorrow. And the last time I did see her, partially, without being, rude or anything, I was like, my God, that is just an incredible breast. It's the work that the plastic surgeon did it's just remarkable.
There you go.
But it wasn't just that. It was just the energy about what you're talking about, the mentality of the nurses, both male and female, and the energy of love. That is the healing part of this, psychologically and physiologically.
I totally agree. And the other part is, as on the cusp of what are we? We're Gen X and Boomer, right? We're right on that.
Yeah. I like Gen X better.
Yeah. So being there, and we talk about the younger generation, I tend to crap on them a lot, but I was surrounded by the youngsters and their attention to detail and care. I mean, they're just rock stars, and I thank them every day. Everyone from the doctor down to the custodians and emptying the garbage. I would thank them for their service, like they were military, because they
Absolutely.
were.
I did the same thing. I bought one of those huge, expensive baskets, and I bought a couple of bottles of champagne, good stuff, and spent a lot of money. And I went there and I presented it to them, and I broke down crying. I was so happy.
I
It
love
was
that.
so real. You know?
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story, dude.
It's just, it makes me tear up thinking about it.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna get me going.
Sorry.
No.
I'm a marshmallow, bro.
Well, thank you for for being so
sharing.
forthcoming. And I'm sure there are some of our listeners who are maybe going through what you're going through, Jonathan.
And if they want to, DM me or reach out to me, I'm happy to help. Especially if it's new to that family or that person. I mean, it's scary, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, that's really kind of you to share that. And of course, with anybody watching this show will be up later today. Anyone that wants to leave comments or wants to reach out to Jonathan or Johnny or myself, we'd love to have the comments, the likes, the subscribe, share, just everybody wants the love. And before we go, I just wanted to talk to Jonathan. Go back to writing again, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
You said that you've got something in the works now, or you've finished something.
Yes. It's the funny thing is we're always told don't put all your eggs in one basket, but when you're writing and you have an agent on the hook, that's the basket. And if they have your book, that's the eggs. And that's just the way it goes. But while you're waiting, because you'll find this, John, it's sometimes you'll wait. If you email some of these top agents, if you hear back within 6 months, you're lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's half a year. How much time do you think I have? Right.
Yeah.
So you fire it off, you hit send, and you just keep writing, and you almost forget about it until you hear from them.
Right.
So there's a woman who's head of acquisitions at a mid-size publisher. So they have a couple of bucks, and I've written a book that the movie pitch would be The Bodyguard meets Taken. It's that kind of thing, and it moves like a thriller pace.
Cool.
Totally new character, a standalone book.
Pitch.
What's that?
I said that's a good pitch.
What was that?
What you just said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Without Liam Neeson, of course, or Neeson.
Exactly. So I sent this book to a top agent in New York, but I got through the door because another author who I know, who is a New York Times bestseller, she vouched for me. So and did the introduction. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And this guy scheduled a phone call. I'm like, wow, they don't normally, a New York bigwig doesn't give you that time usually. We spoke for about half an hour, and it was awesome. Great conversation. I gave him the pitch. He threw some stuff back, and he was like, we could almost look at this. He goes, you can send me the entire book. You can send me a treatment, a chapter, outline, whatever you want. I'm all in, because he read a bit of Don't Shoot the Drummer, which was the second crasher.
Okay.
And he was very detailed, and he was complimentary and very detailed. I'm like, okay, he didn't skim through this thing. He actually read it.
Yeah, that's always
a compliment. Yeah. Right. So I thought, this is great. And then cancer came, so that set me back a year. And then I reached out to him again, and he ended up rejecting the book. And I'm like, oh, man. So, so you just dust yourself off. And I didn't want to give up on that book. So I sent it to a buddy of mine in New York. Shout out to Tim O'Mara, who I have forced him to be my mentor. I said, it's not up to you, pal. You know stuff, and I want what's in your head, right?
Absolutely.
So he went over a couple of chapters and made some suggestions. And then we just talked about it as if like two guys that are talking about a movie that they just watched or something. So I took his input, rewrote the book, and now this publisher has it. And when I pitched her, she got back to me the next day.
Wow.
And then when I sent the book, she acknowledged receiving it on the same day. So
wow,
we'll see what happens.
It's a good start.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So I'm excited to see what happens there. But while that's going on, I'm working on a memoir about all this cancer, and now I have a new chapter.
Still writing, Johnny.
Jonathan, you're such a slacker. Come on, get off your button. Do something with your life. Who's directing? Who's directing the first Lou Crasher movie? Who's your dream director?
Spike Lee.
Oh, stereotyping.
You know what? I
just because he's a brother? No, I mean he did
so.
he did a great. Denzel was in one of his jazz movies. It was great.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Could be, or maybe Clint Eastwood.
I mean, for me, it'd be Quentin Tarantino. That would be my dream director, because my stories are set in the 1970s, and I feel that he would be a good fit for my character.
Sure. Yeah. I met some writers that have had their stuff optioned, so they didn't quite, the studio paid them and pays them every year, like, to have the rights to make the product, but they, so far, like the movie or the series didn't get made. But I was talking to these guys, and I said, well, when they start making the Lou Crasher or any of my crime fiction, I will put into the deal that I have to be one of the fight consultants. And they laughed and laughed. They said, you'll never get that. You'll never get that. They don't do that. And I said, no, I will be the first. I said, listen, if I have the address to the brick and mortar and I walk through the door, come on, try. Call security.
Yeah, exactly. I love
it. That's confidence.
You gotta stand tall, right?
You do. Yeah.
And it's the end of the day. That's what it's all about. Johnny, did you before we finish up here? We're at about 90 minutes, which is excellent.
That's been an epic podcast. Thank you so much.
It's been really great. And Jonathan, we'd like to have you back for a follow up on this latest book.
Continues.
And this latest book, and then find out about the cancer, and so we'll talk about that. Johnny, is there anything else before we finish up today?
I have a pun. Okay, here we go.
Oh, here we go. Johnny and his puns. Jonathan, we always end up usually with a pun, and usually they're awful. My pun last week was...
This might be the worst one yet.
Oh, my last one last week was so good that Johnny even laughed. And then we always talk about the book, a book that we're reading right now, as well. So,
Jonathan, I tried to find one of your books. I scoured the library and I went to Indigo. And if time permitting, I'm spinning a lot of plates like you are, but time permitting, I definitely want to check out one of your books. I checked out Indigo and I couldn't find anything on the bookshelf.
Nothing was,
but it's on the front burner for me because I'm a very avid reader and I want to read your stuff and I think I would really enjoy it. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Did you gentlemen hear about the omega-3 vitamin factory? There was a fire, but fortunately the damages were only super fish oil. Thank you.
I love that one.
You're a great audience.
That's good.
I love you so much.
So you said this is live streaming, right?
Yeah.
So that's gonna stay.
Yeah. I don't edit. I don't edit anything. This is the secret about our podcast, Jonathan. There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many podcasts out there. It's like, you know what? I'm not gonna. The people are spent editing 3, 4, 5 hours. I don't have
too much time.
3, 4, 5 hours, and I don't have the technical ability to do all that stuff. So I prepare for the show, and with this software, it's working out really well. I'm very pleased at the three of us on the screen, with the ticker, and we're going to be doing more of this. This is only our second interview. We had an old friend of ours, Keith Bickford, for a comic book episode, which was really good. That was our third or fourth episode, I believe. But in the meantime, I just wanted to close everything up. Is there anything before you go, Jonathan, that you want to do a shout out to somebody, or anything you want to say before we go? Or
shout out to all of my Canadian brothers and sisters, man.
Yes.
As the political landscape is up and down and all over the place in America.
Whoa.
I love Canada.
Dude, you should see what's going on in Canada. It's an absolute nightmare.
I've heard. So when I guess Trudeau's not doing so well.
No, he's getting absolutely slaughtered, and he's
I
just
heard,
his arrogance is just so supreme.
What
He
an
just
idiot. He was on top, man. He was the king. He was on top for a while.
he's destroyed one of the greatest countries in the world in 9 years.
Trudeau, he's our prime minister, right?
Just well, that's we
I hate politics.
Apparently, the orange blob down south calls him a governor. So I think I don't even think he's a governor. I think really he's just a drama teacher. He's a drama teacher with an expensive suit, is what he is.
So Trudeau goes down to Mar-a-Lago and he kisses the ring, and as soon as he left, Trump shits on him. Like,
yeah.
What did you expect?
The only thing I know about Justin Trudeau is he wears R2D2 socks. That's
we try not to say the T word on this show.
Oh, okay.
Because one of us has issues with that. Anyways, I just honestly, politics are just, it's a nightmare. In Canada, of course, it's just getting slaughtered. But in the meantime, I just wanted to say thank you again, Jonathan, and being patient with us, finally getting you on. And
thank you, guys.
Really, I think our best episode. I really enjoyed it. And your energy, I can see the white light emitting from your entire essence in that studio. And those beautiful green eyes of yours. You look incredibly healthy.
Are those LA? There's some art system like trendy.
No. They say there's only about 1% of the population in this world that have eyes like that, and they're alien eyes. Jonathan might have an 8-inch long tongue. He might be a reptile. Who knows?
I was wondering. I was going to correct you on the 8 inches, but then you said, "Okay, never mind."
Oh, it's the show's not for children, but at the same time, it's the family show.
When I look at Jonathan's eyes, it reminds me of the Man from Atlantis with Patrick Duffy.
Oh, what a great TV! I love that show.
Yeah, that was a good show. show.
And then Aquaman he did after as well, right? Yeah. The television show.
So that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Aquaman. But listen, I just again thank you for joining us, Jonathan, and taking the time out of your busy schedule. And Johnny, thank you for just being you.
Well,
you're fabulous, and hopefully,
you guys are studs, man. Thank you for having
Jonathan,
me.
We appreciate it. Is there a possibility that Johnny could follow up with you, Jonathan, at some point?
Well, I sent Jonathan. I don't know if you looked at your messenger. But yesterday,
that's where you did. Okay, I checked my email. So you went to Messenger?
I sent you my.
He likes to use Messenger,
my Johnny's Way. I sent you a sample of my writing, actually.
Okay,
great.
I shared some of your stuff on my Facebook group page.
I'll dive in. Thank you.
I love to share. Well, thank you, sir.
That's awesome. And thank you to everyone.
I can't thank you guys enough, man. This is awesome. Thank you.
No, honestly, it's just love. It's just love, man. It's just all about love. And I'm just happy for you, and it was so nice to see you, brother. You're just, you haven't changed a bit. You're still incredibly lovely,
Star Trek,
and great personality, and just a real kind soul. And we are blessed.
I think you're setting a very high example for everyone.
Awesome. And I don't have a pun, but I close all of my fitness sessions with my clients. I say all of the world's problems can be solved with love.
Absolutely.
And I felt that here today, so I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. And I'm all about the white light of love. It's surrounding me right now. It fills my soul, my spirit. And this is all about love. And the love right now is radiating because the three of us sharing this today, we made a special episode. We're going to bring you back for a future episode. And both Johnny and Jonathan, I hope you guys can connect and
Johnny, we will for sure.
Hopefully that we can find somebody that's interested in his work, because Jonathan, I think you'd be quite impressed with his writing.
Oh, I know I will. For sure.
It's really quite fun and funny.
Mm-hmm. It's not great literature. I'll be the first one to admit it.
No, but it doesn't need to be. It's just good for what it is. It's good for what it is. But in saying that, guys,
the writing's not boring. I like things not boring at the bare minimum.
Absolutely. Well, there is not, when you say John Leister, there's not anything that's boring in that chap's world, because he is dynamic and one of a kind, and I love him, and I love you too, Jonathan. All the best. Keep on fighting the battle and win that thing, slay that beast.
Oh yeah.
And to all the folks out there that enjoyed this show, please comment subscribe and like. And we look forward to bringing Jonathan back at some point in the near future. And in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us. This is episode 23, and it's all about the talents of Mr. Jonathan J. Brown and his continued success, and then the future success of the other John, Johnny Leister, the co-host of the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale, the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. Thank you kindly for joining us today. I'm going to have this up on YouTube in the next couple of hours. I got to do a basketball episode 9 with Trent shortly thereafter we finish this, and bang out a couple of shows before heading back to Vancouver. And God bless both of you. And everybody, have yourselves a fantastic day. We're going to be signing off. Peace, love, and happiness.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Bye.